Hello and welcome to another video tutorial. In this one, we're going to be building the main top home section for a web page, and I'm going to utilize various things such as Flexbox making two columns, and then also doing some things with masking because we'll be doing some stuff with patterns and also with some background image blends in this area. So I'm going to go ahead and add a container in. And I'm going to choose the Flexbox for this one and select your structure. It's going to be pointing downward, or I should say in a column. So then what we're going to do is I'm going to give it a box width, say of 1400 pixels. I'll just zoom in a little bit for you guys here. And then of course we'll do our usual padding. Well, I shouldn't say usual, but I'm going to do it kind of similar to how we did in the header here. So what I'm going to do is, and you probably saw this in the header video, like I was saying, 100 pixels on the top. Let's copy paste, 100 pixels on the bottom. And then for the left and right, I showed you that max property in the header video. It's going to do max 5%, 20 pixels, so it'll be at 5% of whatever the width is for the left and right sides, but does not get smaller than 20 pixels, hence the max. Okay, so we got that covered. And then one thing I want to do that's a little different than what I do in other sections. Other sections, usually this height will usually be determined by the content, but because it's the top home heading, and we kind of want to start things off by, mainly just showing that in a user's browser window, we're going to give it some min height. So what I'm going to do something a little different here, and it's just kind of my preferred way I like to do it, just to get little more accuracy. But we have these min height, we got all these measurement units, and I'm going to use the pencil, and I'm going to set it to 100 viewport height. So that pretty much makes its height be at least as tall as the height of the user's window. Now it's actually below the header, as you can see here, so there's a little bit of offset with that, with the header being up here. So if I save that up here and refresh, inspect here, you can see that the section we set here, it's only occupying this space, but what about this space here? So if we look here, we have an additional 96 pixels of offset to keep it from being exactly the height of the screen without having this extra scroll here, hence why I'm pointing this out to you guys. So we can kind of tidy this up more and make it so the scroll is mostly gone or little scrolling, just so it fills up just the height of the user's window only from the top. There is a property in CSS known as calc, so I'm going to go ahead and do that, TALC. And then inside this calc, this is a CSS function. I can basically do calculations on different measurements. So what I'm going to do is set it to 100 viewport height like I had before, but then I'm going to subtract 96 pixels to adjust for the offset height of the header. So if we look again, now this scroll bar is very little. They don't have to do much scrolling at all anymore because we pretty much have it for the most part. Let me refresh that. Actually, that's better. I didn't have it refreshed, but now it's not going as far down because we added this in here for its height. So we'll go ahead and continue on. I'm going to zoom out here. The next thing I want to do is whenever I'm setting a section, when I do the initial sizing, most sections, just the padding, not normally doing this, is I want to set the background, some kind of background image or some kind of pattern. So I'm going to start with just a black background. And then I'm going to go to this section here, background overlay. And I'm going to lay a pattern in there. So I'll go ahead and pull up the media just to show you this pattern I'm going to utilize. Sorry, it's taking a little bit. So we have, this is the one I want to use right here. I'll just kind of show you this in another window just to give you an idea of what's really going on. So I basically have this pattern right here that I'm going to utilize. And it's set up in a way in which it's tileable, which means, it can be repeated. I can repeat the same pattern off to the left, right, top, and bottom, X, Y axes, and it'll be seamless. So it's real nice because you can keep the file size down, and plus you can get a little better control this way rather than having an image that has a bunch of them in already, because then you're trying to size it a certain way, and then when you have different sections with different content height, it can cause inconsistencies. So what I found with utilizing patterns is to get it down to just, it's one base tileable pattern, and then just utilize repeat in CSS. So anyhow, enough of that. You get the idea. So I'm going to go right here, set position to center. Going to hit attachment to scroll, and then repeat. I'll show you what happens if I put no repeat on, so we just see that. But now that we're using the repeat, we could repeat along the X or the Y, but in this case, I'm just going to set it to repeat, so it'll go along both the X and the Y axis. You can see we have a nice seamless repeat of that pattern. So now normally with background images, you would set something on the display size like cover to make it cover, but in this case, we don't want to do that. Because we're using the repeat feature, I'm going to give it pixel. You can kind of just dial it down. I'm just using the arrow. You can scroll like this, but just for easier demonstration, I'm just going to use the arrow as I go down on this. You can size it down quite a bit. That's probably too small. Probably right, actually 60 pixels right there is pretty good. And then there's also this opacity, so I'm going to bring that down some, probably to right about there, because usually you want to get down actually a little more, a little further, so it's not so obtrusive with the text. The text isn't competing so much against it and making it hard to read. So I'm going to go ahead and name the structure top section here, because in other videos I showed how I like to name things, and a lot of when things are built, it's really important to focus on the structure, especially with the Flexbox containers, kind of like how I showed in the other video. So I'm going to go ahead and add a container in. And I'm going to drop in another thing as well. It's going to be an image. And I first put that container in. I did set it to be a column, but actually I don't want to do that, so I'm going to do this. And then I'm going to give it, let's give it a column gap, say, of 60 pixels. Got this image here. Now, one thing that is important to use, because this is kind of a little, I guess, bug, if you will, in Elementor, is when you put an image widget in, you'll want to go to the Advanced tab, and under CSS classes, put in a class name called Image Fix, and that's going to help with certain things. Like right there, you see that it fixed the image not being the same height as this container. So I'll go ahead and just do that for now. I'm going to set a background image, or I should say an image. So I want this logo right here. So we have that. And now I'll clear up that 8 pixel padding monster. Double check, make sure I did it up here. I think I did, because yeah, I'll just hit the margin to be safe. So this will be our, just calling it our heading container, or heading text. I should just type that out. So then I'm going to drop a heading in. And then I'm going to set a color. Now, usually when I'm starting off, I may have to set, certain presets, which you would do by just, setting whatever you want and then doing add. But I've already done that, so I'm going to just select from this list of global colors. And it's really important to do this, on your colors and your typography. So to not only maintain consistency, but also make it easier in the future if you have to make edits to the typography or the colors. So I'll go ahead and put that on. So we have Magellan Financial and typography, Roboto 42 pixels. Normally I don't like to do just pixels only. In headers, usually I may give them pixels, but there's actually something else that I like to do with headings. So I'll give it 60 pixels, but then I'm also going to utilize, I think I showed this in one property on the header video, the min property. So it's going to be 60 pixels, and then I'm going to give it 14 viewport width. And the reason I'm doing that, and you usually have to tweak this at first, but once you get these headings in, you're pretty good to go, is when we shrink down to mobile, we want the text at a certain point to shrink, because here, I'll show you real fast. So you can kind of see it here where I set it in Elementor. You're seeing it in the CSS. So had that min of 60 pixels and then 14 viewport width. So the font size won't get smaller than 14% of the browser window width. So it's like 441. So then, yeah, that becomes less than 60 pixels at that point. But let me type just regular 60 pixels in, and let me show you why I like to use that min property. Because at this point, let's say this font was a little larger. When you shrink, when you hard set something, in pixels, it tends to just, stay locked in, and it can sometimes, on headings, the text can get wider than the screen. So that's why I like to use that min property. I'll just type it native CSS here. Of course, this won't save. Why? I'll do 16 viewport width. That's why I like to, That's why I like to use this min property. So then once we get to a certain point, it'll shrink down. Let me just bump that up a little more. Maybe 18. Do 17. Okay, yeah, so we'll do it right there. Do 17. And then usually I'll try to save it. I'll just save it as a typography preset. Actually, there was one more thing I forgot to do. Set the line height. Normally I set those to, 1.5. Actually, I do that on body text. On headings, I'll probably set them to 1.2. And usually I won't type just a bunch of gibberish text in here, just so it goes down another line so I can see the line height. And I'll set it right there. And then letter spacing, don't want any of that. So maybe we can go, I guess 600, 700 are the same font weight. So then I'll just give it a heading. I'll just say heading L for a typography preset. And again, important to use, just like I was saying earlier with text color, use a preset on your color and then a preset for your typography. So I'll go back and get rid of all this. Actually, just zoom out a little bit more, make it easier to see. And then we can add just, text heading. Let's make this white. And then for our typography, let's see here. Usually I want to do it around 18 pixels. Now I like to use a unit called rem. And rem is, I don't know if you're familiar with them at all, but they kind of correlate. Rem will take the font size from the root HTML's font size, and it's a multiplying factor of that. So it's 16 pixels. So I'll set it to 1.125. So then 16 times 1.125 will be 18 pixels. So, I'll try to cover this, just in a little bit more detail right now. So as I was saying, the rem unit, is just a multiplying factor of the root HTML's font size, which is set up in a way so that users, when they go to their settings, it's been a while since I've done this. Oh, where is that? Dev tools. Oh, settings right here. And then for appearance, a user could set their font size to be whatever they want. So basically, this controls that root HTML's font size. The default is medium, which is like, sets it to 16 pixels, I believe. And then large, I believe, is like 20. And then very large, 24. And then it can go down to 14 pixels or 12. So then all the rem units multiply off that, and then you get your font size. But anyhow, it's another thing I wanted to emphasize. So we'll do that. And then for line height, I'm probably going to do, let's see, 1.5. In fact, sometimes, let's see. I'll just say this is body text. Or I can just say, what the hey, this is an excerpt. So let me go back here. Okay, so this all looks pretty good, so I'm going to save this one as body text. So then you kind of have, this text up here and this image kind of like halfway here. Now, if you remember in the Flexbox video, the way to fix that is these are going along the directional axis. So I want to set the align items to center, and then that kind of centers them up here. So another thing I want to do for this area too is I kind of want to give it its own background. So this is another trick that I haven't gotten to talk about much yet, but right here, I'm going to put a container inside this left side container that the Magellan Financial heading and the body text are seated in. And I'm going to call it background overlay. And then what I'm going to do for this one, because I don't want this, creating space down here like in the normal flow of things. So I'm going to go to advanced and set its position to absolute. So now it kind of floats on its own layer. No space is allocated for it. Everything just acts like it's not there. So it allows us to layer on top, or I should say underneath. And, sorry, for the min height, I'm going to give it 100%. So now it's taking up that full height. And then I want to set a background color. And then I want to set an image overlay. Okay, so I'll take, let me do the city. Center this up, display size cover, get a little background there. Right here. And then what I want to do is blend, multiply there, but then of course it's layering over the text. So I'm going to give that to, and I'll give that to. So give the container with the text, some more padding. I kind of forgot to do that before. So for this one, because it's kind of on the side there, I may just give it all, you know what? Let me just give it my usual, although not as much on the top and bottom. So let's say 40 pixels. And then max. And then of course I want to give this a little bit of text shadow. Not much. And then let's see. Yes, so right here, what I want to do is I don't want this background just stopping, right here, because one thing I forgot to mention, I might have explained this a little bit in header, but I'll just cover it with you guys. When I created a section here, I did set a content width of boxed. So it allows the content to only get so wide before it just, stops getting wider and it just centers up. So if you notice, the content's not getting wider than what I specified, which was, 1400, sorry. And then, sorry about this, guys. You can kind of see everything's kind of boxed in, but with this background, I'd really like it to go, further and cover all the way. So, on a really wide screen, this is like 2400, that it will extend all the way to the edge of the screen and not just remain within this box container. So what I'm going to do to alleviate that, and this is, a little bit of an advanced technique. So with position absolute, it allows it to just, be independent of sort of everything space-wise. It allows it to sort of float. So let's see. Layout here. So what I'm going to do is, let me set that to full. And just for good habit, get rid of those. I'm going to give it a width. Actually, I'll give it viewport width of 200. And then, now it's going off this way. We don't want it to go there. We want it to stop right here at the edge of the its parent heading text container. So then what I'm going to do, because it's absolute, we have these controls. I'm going to use that calc property, kind of what you saw earlier when I was setting the min height. We're going to subtract minus 200 viewport width, so it makes... That's the equivalent of what its width was, which makes it come back to the beginning here. But with this calc, if we take that minus 200 viewport width to the left and add 100% on here, then it will make it go 100% of its parent container's width, which lines it up nicely. And, which is exactly what we're going for. So now if I zoom out, the text isn't getting wider. Neither is the logo because it's staying in that boxed area, but now this background is spanning all the way across, which is nice. Now, I want to add another feature to this background here, and it's a feature known as masking image, if you will. So I'm going to utilize an image in an SVG format. In fact, I'll show you right here. I'm going to utilize this image of an SVG, which is, just a solid black object, and I'm going to use it to create a mask out around the image. And the goal of that is to make this end here pointy, so like, a giant arrow, if you will, pointing at the Magellan logo. So that's what this is, and that's what I'm going to use it for. Now, you probably notice it's really wide, and this is to accommodate that wider screen, if you will, because if it didn't go this wide, then it could cut off somewhere right here. So that's why I'm doing that. So I'm going to take this URL here, and then this is where we're going to have to do a little custom CSS. So I'm going to give this double asterisk, and then I'm going to go into the advanced. I'll zoom in a little for you guys so you guys can see this. And then we're going to type our selector. You probably saw me doing something like this with the previous video on Flexbox containers. And then there's a property called -webkit-mask-image. And then what we're going to do is assign it of a property of a URL, which will use an image to make a masking trace around. So I put this in here, and we see it working, but it's not quite positioned right. So we have to add a few more properties. So I'm going to do WebKit mask image cover, just like, setting a background image size to cover, same thing there. So then WebKit mask repeat, and do no repeat, I believe. No repeat, it was with a hyphen. Okay. And then you saw that kind of repeat at the end. There we go. So now it's going all the way to the edge there, because I think before it was centered. Yeah, so, and if we did left or something like that, it would still be off. So it's got to be the right, because obviously we're going to the right. So we're going to save that. And then one thing I'll do here for this one, oh, what the hey, I'll give it a little extra height here. And, oh, wait, that's not going all the way. Okay, so did I not size that right? Actually, and sorry for the little edit here, guys. I think I know what I did wrong here. So WebKit mask size, that says WebKit mask image, so I gotta change that. And there we go. Okay, so that fixes the issue. I just made a little typo when I was typing out the CSS. And that's why I was struggling to get this to fill the entire height. So now we have this here. And now here's where it can get just a little bit tricky, because I think I already saved that. Is as this shrinks down, we don't want this text flowing over there. So there's one way that I'll show you guys on how to mitigate that. So what I'm going to do here is for the main heading text, because that background overlay is basing itself off that. So for its width, rather than just giving it 100%, because we got to be particular on this. Normally, if just general shrink, you could use the flex properties, but I'm going to say, so max, I'm going to use the max property, kind of like what I did on the padding. So it can't get any smaller than that. In fact, on this right here, we could just set it to just straight up 980 pixels. Because, that's down to tablet size. So we have that here, we have this here. I'll just, type a little bit more here. This is an excerpt. This is a tutorial on building a top section for a website. So not much longer, and probably really didn't need to do that, but so I'm gonna go back here. I'm gonna adjust this a little bit more. This background with the gray. In fact, it's a little tougher to read. Let me try another blend. I'll just do that for now. And then for the color, I'll make it a little lighter. Or actually darken a little more. That makes it a little better. So I'll go ahead and actually want to line this up center. So it's already there. So then if you saw the Flexbox video I made previously, we want to center this content up. So we'll set the direction to column, and then we'll set it to center, and that will center it up nicely. Now I know this is a little bit basic as far as the general layout, but I wanted to show more of the advanced concepts. So I'll give this a little bit of grow here. Just want to make sure this is responsive. And it is. Okay, that's getting down a little too much, and I think that's because we got to adjust that's within the tablet range. So pretty much, we pretty much have the desktop area aspect of it covered. Make sure it doesn't get too wide. Go out a little more. So next I want to do the tablet. And for this, it can be a little buggy in Elementor. I probably want to have, for this top section, which is housing the heading text container that has all this, and then the image, I'm just going to name that logo. What I'm going to do is I'm going to flip it from row to column. So then that makes the pointer go here. And then I believe I can center this up. I'll probably be fine. Yeah, I'm totally fine there. Although this, I could get a little close to the edge here, so I think I'll set. Make sure I got that there. Okay, good, it's there. So make sure it's not bleed over. Okay, so if this excerpt is short, I want to test one more thing. Just paste this a bunch of times. I was worried it might bleed over at the end a bit here, so we might need to give this more padding. We may need to hard set these actually. With containers, like this where we masked it out, sometimes you got to be a little more creative. But, it's all the process of making it responsive. So don't need any on the left side, it's the right side I need it. That keeps it within there. Yep. So now when I shrink it down further, this one I want to give it equal. Let's see. Well, let's say 60 pixels. In fact, I'll just do them all pixels here. So you want to do them equally. That's why you're having that offset. So then you have it shrink down to here. You're good on that. And then down on mobile, we can probably just take it back to, because yeah, it's falling apart here totally. Five, and then 5%. Let's write the 768 mark. Okay, so there we go. Shrink down, we shrink down, we're good. Still down on mobile. Save my changes. And now that background pattern, you notice it's gone. That's probably because Elementor will change certain settings in the mobile from what you may have it on tablet and desktop. So I'll give it 0 here. In fact, I'll give it -5 VW, so then that should keep it within the range. And then, of course, we don't have anything on top, so we'll give this 80 pixels top and 80 on the bottom. So we get this nice little wrap here. Everything's staying within bounds here. In fact, this side, oh yeah, this parent one is covering all that, so I actually don't need that here. And you know, sorry it's taking this. Sorry if it seems like it's taking a while. This is, you know, kind of the typical routine you'd go through when doing this to try and make it responsive. So then we have that there. Let me check what I had for the row gap. I think for that row, I'm just doing up here because usually this property will carry down all the way into mobile, so you only have to set it in desktop. Why don't I do 100? Save that because it goes underneath here. And then this shrinks down nicely across all three screens. It's responsive. So I'm just going to show you guys this. And you know what? I may want this to stack. Well, I think the breakpoint is up there, but you know what? It's only there, so I think if we give it a little more padding. That may help alleviate with that. There we go. Still looks good there because I added all the, let's see it, all that extra padding as you see in the green there to keep it within this bound so this isn't spilling over. So this is pretty much, you know, most of what I wanted to show you guys. You got to learn a little bit about the WebKit mask image property. Now, so let me just show you real fast. Sorry, I got a little ahead of myself there. So, you know, we've got a nice responsive from mobile all the way up here. Now, I want to do one last thing, you know, just to give it, you know, a little bit more look. I want to have an image sort of mask its way in from this pattern. So, you know, the pattern, that was one of the first things we set up, but I want to set it up so it will gradually fade into a background image just to, you know, give this a little bit more shine, if you will. So I'm going to add a container in here. I hit that. And this one I'm going to set to absolute, kind of like what you saw me do with that one background image and stuff that I put the blend on here. It's going to be for this whole section, and it's going to be background image, or just background overlay. And I'm going to put that in. Actually, you know what? I changed my mind on one thing. I want it to kind of stay underneath the content because the way I was about to do it was going to kind of go over this. But you know what? Actually, you know what? That's fine. I'll just cover the whole thing in this case. So give that, let's say 50%. So we'll have it, so right at the midway point where this point starts is where it will fade in, or mask transition into the background image. So we have that. So now this container is still at top halfway. We want to be at the bottom. So what I'm going to do is give it 100%. Now 100% started from the top here, or 0 did, so 100% put it at the bottom. But then there's a property called transform, offset, and then we're going to change the Y minus 100%. So now what happened was the transform looked at the height of the container and then shifted it up that amount. So then now it's positioned on the bottom the way we want it. And one thing I want to make sure when you do something like this is, oh wait, Didn't want that. Actually, you know what? That'll be fine. And then I can set this to 0. And then I'm going to apply. You know what? I'll just do a background image. Just plain. I'm not going to mask it or anything. Sorry, it's taking a while. And we'll just we'll do another desert. Why not? Because we got the one in the city there. Now, got to do a couple of things here. Because it did kind of layer over my thing there. There we go. But now the text is blocked because I got to set that higher. There we go. Okay, so now everything's z-indexed accordingly. So we got this background overlay here. Now, right now, you just see it, as a plain solid, hard transition right at the halfway tip point there. So change these settings. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to apply custom CSS on this. So go to advanced, give it the name, and of course, give it the 2 asterisks to indicate that you've added CSS, or that's just what I like to do to let others know. So go to the selector, and I'll zoom in again to show you guys this better. Mask image. And now, kind of like what we did here, where we applied that property, this time we're just going to use a simple linear gradient, because with this one we used, that SVG to kind of trace out a masking pattern for us. But what we can do here is just do a linear gradient. There we go. So you kind of see it doing a nice little transition to the bottom there. So, yeah, in fact, overlay that just a little bit. Look a little better. Okay, so then you have that, and then one thing I can do for this, I'm going to give this background overlay. It already has some custom CSS. I'm going to give it a little more. Okay, so that was trying to give that a little drop shadow, but I could dig into it a little, furthermore, but it could get a tad time consuming. So, so here we go. This is a little, simple little tutorial on how to, make a home page, a top section of a home page. Sorry, I know this video has been a bit long, but so there we go. So we've added that in, and we've got this nice image to accommodate. And right here we could just get rid of that altogether on mobile. So that background overlay, we'll just go to advanced, responsive. Let's get rid of it, double check. There we go. So now it's gone, because yeah, it just didn't look good before. In fact, even on tablet, I'll get rid of it there. It's a nice little extra perk for those that are on desktop. Okay, so that pretty much wraps it up. I know this isn't, the prettiest look, but, the point of doing all that was kind of show you the features, mainly utilizing the WebKit mask image for a URL to trace out a certain pattern, or even just using linear gradient to gradually blend from this background pattern to this background image. And then, of course, absolute positioning, like you saw where I absolute positioned this whole background image container. And then same for the one in here. Just to recap one more time to illustrate, with position absolute, it was able to float, but if I just set it to default, now it's kind of going underneath everything and going back to its default behavior. So position absolute allows you to kind of float it and set its height based upon its parent, and then set it off to the side. So yeah, I know this was a lot of information, but I kind of wanted to just, cover those, and I hope you guys all learned something, and I will be making another video for you guys soon.